I thought the whole me against the earth thing was all mostly at least done and done with. But apparently not. There are those people out there who fail to see reason at all and are just completely in their own little mind. It kind of reminds me of the far left, or, well, SJWs, who will completely fail to see the bigger picture in anything and always insist that they are 100% right about everything, and if you disagree with them or if you don't stand with them, then you are part of the problem. You must then be stopped. You must then be eliminated. Okay, maybe my situation isn't extreme as SJW's, but still, it's not a particularly good one. You see, after my trial, many people were, understandably, annoyed with the results of it, some of them for various reasons. One of the main ones was that Spitz McKendrick basically just taken over everything and just used the trial as an excuse for him to go hunting Marvis in an attempt to try and gain access to his time travel abilities. Now, I have no idea whether Marvis has a device that he uses to time travel or he's able to do it naturally. I don't know. Next time I see him, I'll ask him that. But anyway, some people, people who are even for me, being innocent and everything, they were annoyed that it was essentially just a complete and utter waste of time, and that essentially it really accomplished nothing. Whereas the other side were angry because obviously they wanted me to be put away, but also the fact that I wasn't really being properly tried in the way that they wanted it. So some of them obviously decided that they were going to take the law into their own hands, or at least try and get their own back for their own sort of justice in their own way. I mean, I told you in the previous episode of this podcast of what one of them, although we never got it confirmed, but it is the most likely solution to an unsolved mystery of what one of them did. Essentially harmless. Scaring us shitless, but harmless. Though, obviously, at the time, we didn't know that. However, some people out there aren't like that. Some people will go to the absolute extreme lengths. And some feel that they're justly fighting for a cause and that this is the only thing that matters. Not even their own life will matter to them anymore. And those people you simply just cannot reason with. You can show them all the sense and the evidence against it. However, they will simply either just ignore it or be completely blind to it, or deny that the evidence even exists, even if you shove it right into their faces. It's why I've always deemed it an importance to show James, the bigger picture. I mean, he was obviously always going to be for me rather than against, but, I had to basically sit him down and tell him to look at it from other points of view. And I'm not asking for everyone to be for me, I just want people to understand, where I was coming from. It's fine if you disagree with what I did, and you think it's morally wrong for me to do that. But at least then there's some understanding, there's an acknowledgement of the evidence and of the facts, where you could have a debate and a discussion. Though it does feel a lot in this day and age that there are people few and far between that anymore. Of course, James doesn't want to learn this himself. He just wants to go off and do his own thing. Either play on his PS4 that I got him, or if he's feeling a bit more academic, he'll start designing some new clothes for his upcoming fashion line, which he has become a bit obsessed with. But I'd rather him be obsessed with that than with his PS4. At least then, there's a career out of it, if it does manage to become successful when it finally launches. And yes, I know there are various YouTube gamers and Twitch streamers who are incredibly successful. However, most of them have been doing it for years, and for a lot of time, They weren't making absolutely zilch, nothing, nada. But also the market is incredibly saturated with that as well. And the vast majority of people who do these Let's Plays and gaming videos will not get noticed at all. And besides, to most people, why bother taking a chance watching some guy you've never heard of play a game when you can go to the old faithful PewDiePie or Markiplier or Jacksepticeye and watch them play it, because at least then you know their personality and you know you'll maybe get something out of it. You see, that's kind of how it works. It's the same with the TV and film industry or any. You have an idea for an original series or movie or something. Unless you've got something to back yourself up with and you've already made a success in something else, forget it. There's no room for originality these days. No new creations. At least not in terms of making any profitable ones. I mean, I myself am no real exception to this. I mean, obviously, other than my appearance, which obviously did cause part of the fame, but the other part where I can mimic any vocals I can hear, obviously I piggybacked off other famous vocals and artists singing their songs. Particularly popular when I was singing deceased artist songs, such as Michael Jackson or David Bowie, etc., etc. But in terms of my abilities, I would say I've slightly evolved them. I now no longer need to be able to hear the vocals in my head for me to mimic them, which is what I was doing before. I was literally just recalling the vocals in my memory and then redoing them. I'm now able to mimic people's voices and say basically whatever I like. And in a couple of instances, sort of create my own voices. At least for brief periods of time. God, look at me, I'm talking about voices in my head. I sound like an absolute nutter. Maybe I am. Oh well, it keeps things interesting, doesn't it? But anyway, I'm doing that thing again, aren't I? Well, I just go off track and ramble about loads of random crap. And, well, not crap, but you get the picture anyway. I'm sorry I do this. It's just like some things, really get on my chest quite a lot. And some things are just like, ugh. Like, for example, Sally was sick. She threw up yesterday morning. Was it the morning before? I don't know. It was either a couple of days ago or something. She said she's going to see a doctor about it, since it's been happening a lot recently, within the past month. Hoping it's nothing serious, and that maybe it's just a bug going around. Oh, actually saying that, I hope me and James don't catch it. Look at me doing gay. Anyway, back on track, hopefully properly this time. I assure you, everything give yourself a slap to get you right back on track. But anyway, I'm going to tell you this time about someone who took the verdict and the whole debacle about my trial, well, very personally, and went a bit mental over it, and made it their mission in life, regardless if it was the last thing they did, that they were going to kill me, no matter what. So, the day started as just as any other would. If there wasn't anything that I particularly had to do that day, aka work, then I would sleeping till whenever I fucking like o'clock. But anyway, when I finally did decide to actually get up, I decided to go into the kitchen. Sally was feeling a bit queasy. James was upstairs, presumably on his PS4. So I thought this would be the prime opportunity to have a conversation with her that I'd been meaning to have for a fair while now. I sat down at the table beside her, and I swiveled myself in my chair to face her. She then asked me what was up. I proceeded to say, nothing, just exhausted, isn't it? Don't get enough sleep, you feel tired. Get too much sleep, you feel tired. I swear there must be a 10-second point where you'll get the perfect amount of sleep. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about us being a thing again. She rolled her eyes around the room and said in a slightly confused voice, okay. I proceeded to tell her, I don't want you to just be some employee here. I want you to actually live here. And I get lonely at night in that bed alone. The few occasions when you've slept in it with me. Look, She stopped me there mid-sentence, and the first thing she said was that we'd hardly been doing much sleeping in my bed when we were in there together. Though she then did admit that maybe it was time that we started being more serious about getting back together again. And she said, well, she was living there anyway, so why not? She then asked me, would James be okay with this whole situation? I told her that, well, to be truthfully honest, it's not really James's business. I don't know where you're coming from. I know part of him probably feels like I'm betraying his mother. And I did, and still do love her. But I also love you. And him. Besides, I think we've eased him into it enough. As long as we don't do anything drastic in front of him, I think he'll be okay. Sai then laughed at that last remark. She said to me, what, we're going to do it in front of him? You weirdo. I pulled a sarcastic-looking smile and lowered my brow. She then asked me, does James have any friends? It was a question I didn't truly know the answer to myself. I know that he'd grown up mostly in isolation, but did he truly have no friends at all? It was something I'd never thought to ask him about. I'd known him for nearly a year and never thought to once ask him if he had any friends. Though saying that, I imagine he surely would have told me if he wanted, any of them to come round, or at least ask me. Maybe I was doing the wrong thing by having him homeschooled. I mean, how was he going to cope with the real world when he eventually enters it? I said to her that I would have a conversation about it, and then I stopped. I then suggested that maybe she should have a talk with him, so that she and him could get to know each other a bit better. Anything it might help to bring him round. She sighed and then said, the things I do for you. I then kissed her, and proceeded to make my breakfast. Bacon, bacon, and more bacon. With some orange juice, gotta have one of your 5 a day after all. You know what? It was a nice breakfast. Sometimes it's just the simple things that make you happy. I'm always happy when I'm eating. I don't eat to, forget my problems or anything like that. I don't have, cravings or anything along those lines. No. I just enjoy the taste. All the flavours. I admit it's like an addiction. I just love food and all the great tastes. So if you want to make me happy, cook me a good meal. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just has to be tasty. Saying that though, if you do want to cook me a fancy meal, I will not pass on that offer. Yeah. Life was starting to become pretty simple, pretty basic, and to some people pretty boring. However, after everything I'd been through, boring was perfect. I could make my life as exciting as I wanted to, because the main thing was, I now had control over it again. Though, despite me thinking that I was free for the day, it turned out that I wasn't. Well, not entirely. Sure I was for the morning, but the afternoon I was reminded that I had to go to a charity event to try and raise some money for a new farmland or something to be made. It was a nice thing and that, so it wasn't exactly something I could pass upon. And besides, it was a charity that I had created. So after I finished eating, I went back into my room and started to get ready. Though little beknownst to me, although I had been teaching James some courtesy manners, since it seemed he was at the age where you start to forget them again. Yeah, it's a bit weird. As a little 5-year-old, you'll be, oh yes, please and thank you. But then as a teenager, all that goes out the window and everything's about you and da-da-da-da-da. But anyway, he basically just made his way into my room as I was getting ready and exclaimed, "You're not wearing that, are you?" I then turned to face him. Okay, there are several things wrong with what you have just done. For one, you knock before coming in here. Because unless you want to see Daddy's family jewels, oh god, that sounds really wrong, then knocking is your best bet. And two, what I wear is my business. And three, what's wrong with what I'm wearing anyway? Just like, why you always wear checkered shirts? Simple. I like them and they're comfortable. No thanks, but the fashion industry seems to go at, whatever the maddest and weirdest thing that they can go out there, that's the new fashion. Never mind practicality or comfort or anything like that. No. If it's something radical, new and different, that's the in thing. And are you going to wear my coat with that? Sorry, I don't think you understand how gifts work either. You see, when you gift something to someone, then it is theirs. They can do what they want with it. It is no longer yours. But yes, I was planning on it. Well, can't you wear a proper shirt? It would go with it bang and make you look more professional. Alright. For public appearance's sake, I'll wear one of my shirts. But I'm still wearing my jeans. I found trousers uncomfortable. Anyway, are you going? Or are you going to stay here? Oh, so I can choose this time, can I? Hey, don't you have that cheat with me. Well, sorry, you bugged me coming along. Just to make your public image look better. That's not the only reason. And you know damn bloody well it isn't. Now, are you coming or not? Because if you're not, you can stay with Tom. Why can't he come here? He's only a few doors down. Well, by your own logic then, you can go a few doors down to him. This is because of being on my PlayStation that much, isn't it? No! Although it will be good for you to get away from a screen for 5 minutes. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm sounding old. That's what you're doing to me. You're aging me up rapidly inside. Alright, I'll go to Tom's. And you do everything he says. And hey, tell you what, if you're a really good boy for him, we'll get takeaway tonight. You can have a doner kebab, or whatever the hell you want. Can I get it with chips? We'll get a chips to share. But I want my own. I don't want to have to share with yous. There's nothing wrong with sharing. Besides, I'm not made of bloody money, and lately you've just been sitting on your arse all day. So be honest, it's doing you a favour. Right. Oh, and before you go, you should really learn to knock, because from now on I won't be the only one sleeping in this bed. Oh yes, I know you and Sally. No, I mean, she'll be sleeping in this bed from now on with me. So you finally did it. You found someone to replace Mum. She's not replacing your mother. Are you sure? You seem to be doing everything else that you did with Mum, with her now. Well, aren't you going to say anything for backchatting you? Not over that, I'm not. I know it's difficult for you to accept her. And despite what you may think, I am not asking you to accept her as your mother, far from it. I just want you to accept that she's who I'm with now. I will never forget your mother. I will always love her. But she's gone, James. Yeah, and you're just stuck with me now. I'm not stuck with you. I want to look after you. I want to try and be the father now that you didn't have growing up. And I appreciate the way you just welcomed me into your life. But I've also got my own life. But you know what? I'll tell you this. You know what's the same now? From when I was with your mother to now being with Sally? Got no fashion sense? You. You'll always be my first priority. And believe me, it sometimes wants to make me hit my own head against the wall several times. So now will you please let me change in peace? Can I bring my PS4 to... No. And with that, I showed James the door out of my bedroom. Things between me and him weren't all quite as... what's the word peachy as they had once been. Less of the whole, oh, lovey-dovey, isn't everything hunky-dory. I mean, I can't blame him. But, you know what? It's more real. It's like when you get married, you'll have a 2-week honeymoon or however long. You know, you think everything's perfect and that, you know, we'll always be this happy together. We'll never argue or anything like that. And then about a month later, you kind of want to kill each other. So while it's nice that mine and James's relationship has reached this point, what isn't so nice is sometimes I do truly just want to smack him across the face with the way in which he speaks to me. I remember Dorothy once saying to me that he was unusually well behaved when around me. At the time I thought she was exaggerating. Now I know that was the understatement of the fucking century. Regardless, I got ready and dropped James off at Tom's house. Before I left, Tom stopped me and said, like, you do realise, when I said I'd help you with whatever, it didn't mean becoming your all-around babysitter. I then promised him that next time I would hire a babysitter. Tom then said, that isn't James old enough to just be left alone at home for a couple hours on his own? After all, I was, when I was his age. I then said to Tom that it was hardly the same circumstances. He then said to me, will you be seeing the same thing when he's your age? Probably, is my reply. I then set off with Sally to go to this charity event. The event was held on Earth, in what remained of Australia. Not gonna lie, a sizable chunk of it had unfortunately met its demise. However, a considerable portion hadn't, and that was the part I was focusing on. When we arrived there were security guards surrounding us, to ensure our safe travel up to a platform. Sally wasn't just there for moral support, she was also going to speak of the developments of the Scarverers in my back garden. Although she was no longer just an employee at my house, she did still tend to them pretty much every single day. I think it was just something she legitimately enjoyed doing. As usual with these kind of things, there were protesters. However, unbeknownst to all of us, amongst this crowd was a woman by the name of Stacey Campbell. And let's just say she hadn't come just to protest. She was here to take action. As I approached the platform, I made it so that it was possible for people to meet and greet with me on my way up there. After all, like it or not, I had now technically become an influential political figure, something I had hated, since let's face it, pretty much all politicians are bastards. And besides, I wasn't good at making decisions and that for large amounts of people. I'm good at making decisions for myself, absolutely, and I'm very good at making suggestions and that for other people, but not in this capacity. After meeting and greeting with about 22 people, I and Sally finally made our way onto the stage, with a raised platform in the middle. I reached into my pocket where I'd made a bunch of notes on the way over, of what exactly I was going to say. I hadn't exactly planned it out. As with most things in my life, I kinda just winged it. And besides, talking is never been a difficulty for me. It's shutting me up, that's the difficult thing. But anyway, I began talking about something I have no idea, really. In hindsight, it really doesn't matter anyway. It won't change the outcome of what was about to happen. You see, Stacey had a prosthetic lower arm and hand, in which she managed to smuggle in a Glock pistol. While all the crowds, including the protesters, were focused on me, she had apparently been pretending to be rummaging through her handbag, whereas in reality she was removing her prosthetic in order to retrieve the pistol that she had been hiding in it. As soon as she removed the pistol from her handbag, she was immediately spotted by security. However, before they could get to her to detain her, she had enough time to take 2 shots. Thankfully, Scacey was not a trained professional at all, and before attempting this was just the average Joe. The first bullet just went off into the air, thankfully hitting no one. However, the second went straight through my left shoulder. I quickly clasped it with my hand and knelt to the ground in pain. Sally took off a white neck scarf that she'd been wearing and tied it round my shoulder to try and stop the blood from gushing out all over. Scacey had at least come somewhat prepared, as she had brought smoke pellets, and, in the mix of the smoke, she was able to get away. We then heard more gunshots, and saw that one of the bullets had hit the podium. The crowd then began to flee, running around like headless chickens. We quickly made a break for the shuttle. However, Scacey was able to get lucky, shooting out the fuel tank. One of the security staff said he had a small Beetle car, but it only had 2 seats. I told him to get Sally out of here. She told me to not be stupid, and she said maybe I could climb onto the roof and hold on, though I quickly told her that was an equally stupid idea. I said that there was still a bit of time before the smoke would clear, and that I could put some distance between me and her. It was obvious that I was the target. I begged her to go. She gave me a goodbye kiss. As she did, I could feel the wetness of her tears, and most likely she could of mine. She then took off. I then headed in the opposite direction, but making it clear to Scacey which direction I was going in. I used the now unfunctional shuttle as a barrier between me and her to stop any more bullets that she may fire. And after 2 more shots, she must have realised this herself, as I heard no more shots until she had made her way round the shuttle. I then continued running, one hand constantly holding round my shoulder to try and stop the blood from pouring out. I needed medical attention, otherwise there was the possibility I could die of blood loss. However, when the smoke cleared, I realised where I was, in an outback desert landscape of Australia.